What was the title again of the talk? Is non-duality dangerous? Bum, bum, bum. Is non-duality dangerous? Everything is always dependent on what you describe as a safe life and what you describe as a dangerous life. So it's just dependent on your prerequisitions. I forget the word. As to whether you decide it's dangerous or not. Like, what is it that you want out of life? Like, do you want out of life 3 kids, husband, wife, lots of money, a house? Because if that is a safe life to you, then, and that's the life you want, then maybe non-duality is dangerous. Maybe that isn't sitting as well with non-duality. I'm not saying you can't have that. It could be the experience of non-duality and having that. But non-duality can break down a lot of your belief systems. And if your husband has a belief that the life you want is one of wealth, of prosperity, of showing off, of people seeing, living up to your neighbors or whatever it's called, then maybe non-duality is dangerous, because maybe it will question that life and your beliefs will begin to change, your wants, your desires will begin to change. Also, say if you were both film stars and both really into being famous and really desiring this and wanting this, then maybe non-duality is dangerous to that. So it depends on how you look at the word dangerous, like what is dangerous to you. Some people could see non-duality as safety, because it's like the absolute freedom. It's freedom no matter how much you fuck up. It's freedom no matter what goes right or wrong in your life. So maybe from another person's perspective, it is safety. So I think it's an impossible question to answer. Is non-duality dangerous? It depends on where you start and where you want to end up in the human story. What we can also see, if we really explore non-duality, is that non-duality is beyond all of that, of being dangerous or safe, or helping you or not helping you. But what is it that looks out of the eyes right now? Does that ever move in time with the story? So who you truly are, that which is experiencing, is that ever contained in the story of dangerous or not? Or is that always experiencing that notion, unmoved, unchanged, free, expansive? what happens to us on the human level is we are like robots with all these algorithms in us. So our algorithms are formed through society, through social interactions, and it's also genetically informed as well. So we're all set up particular ways. And when I say robots, it's not like we are really robots, but we're set up in a very mechanical fashion. So scientists begin to discover that when they look for the self or the I or the person that's in charge inside the body, they can't find it. There's no controller that's inside the body. The body is responding to its environment depending on its particular programming. And you could say it's algorithms, because these algorithms are constantly evolving and updating. So whatever you come in contact with, they change and they grow and they expand or they decrease, whatever it is. And we take that to be who we are. We take our algorithm to be who we are. So if you're a quiet person, it's you are quiet. If you're a rich person, you are rich. If you're an old person, you are old. If you're a young person, you are young. So we take ourselves to be these behaviors, and these behaviors are something that's genetic, which genetics go back to the beginning of humanity and the beginning of life, the Big Bang. Our genetics are like this evolution that's happening. And so our genetics, and then it's down to our social conditioning and our cultural conditioning. So maybe you believe you're English or you're French or you're Chinese, or you're clever or stupid, all these different things that we take in to be us. Also our past, you're someone that did this or someone that did that, and we really believe that is us, that is who we are, and that we're inside this machine navigating, and we are choosing. So you think that you're choosing to drink your drink. So say, for example, say if you had two choices, this is apple juice, the bog roll is apple juice, and the tea is tea. And so you have this choice between apple juice, and you're like, oh, well, I've had a few teas today, maybe it's better to have some fruit, so some apple juice, and I haven't had any vegetables, that's one of my 5 that I've got to have today, but the apple juice has lots of sugar, so maybe I should have tea. And we think that we're making the choice because this voice in the head is talking about the choice. And then a choice is made, so you pick apple juice, and it comes with this feeling like, I picked it. Whereas actually, the algorithm of choice is that lots of questions are asked in order to update you about what is being chosen, so that the machine can pick the best option. The choices get a little bit like screwed up though, because of the idea that you're choosing. So for a lot of people, choices become too important, and they believe that if they choose wrongly, then they're going to suffer. So, or if they choose right, then they'll get to freedom. And that makes the choice making process a little bit abnormal. But the actual act of choosing is an intelligent way of machines updating themselves. So if you think about an algorithm on the computer, they appear as if they're choosing. So say they, like we ask Siri, what is the best dog walker in my area? And then Siri comes up with a couple of answers. And in that, like, I know it's like a nanosecond in which she comes up with it, but in that time, she's gone through all the information, all the reviews, to make a choice as to which one to refer to me first. But it's happened really quickly. So she's set up to look through. So she looks up, she looks and thinks, okay, it's got 5 stars. It's closer to her. The distance is closer to her. The person uses lots of positive words in the text, whatever she is programmed to do to make the choice. But she looks at both, just like with the apple juice and the tea, we're looking at both and we're like, okay, this has got 200 calories, this one has got 0 calories. We're looking and we're reading and we're updating the machine, and then Siri finds the one with the most ticks and then suggests it to us. But she doesn't think that she's a separate entity that has free will. We could write that into our computers and then we'll begin to get very funky computers. And maybe it'll improve their algorithm to an extent, but maybe it will also create suffering. But that's what's happening on the human level, is we think that's us, that we're the chooser. And we're choosing because of who we are and what we are. And that is us. And we've got to defend us with all our might. I am a good person. I am kind person. People like me. All these different types of things we think is who we are and an entity. I can't even remember being like that in society, but I know that like the majority of society is totally lost in that dream of you and choosing. Whereas choice is a functioning. It's not who you are. And so much suffering comes from choice, like you're bad, you're good. These all have relevance, like being told that we've done something bad gives this system an opportunity to rectify that, to be like, oh, this is bad action, this is bad. I can produce something better than that. So it allows the system to do that, but we identify with it and we're like, we are bad, I am bad. And what existential angst to believe that you are somebody, first of all, and that you are bad. Like you aren't a collection of thoughts and ideas and behaviors. These are something that is happening. This is like the sky, it's the wind, it's the breeze, it's the smells, it's a happening, but it's not you, and you can't really control it. It appears like you can. So it appears that you can put all this information in and then you can choose, but you're not really choosing. It's always an appearance of choice. So if you do really bad actions and then somebody explains to you how that made other people feel, unless you're a psychopath, you'll begin to take that on board. Okay, so that made those people feel that. How it affects the environment, okay? So the machine gets updated and it changes from that information. But it's not personal. There isn't a me or a you there that is bad. And if you actually looked at everybody's story, like really ironed it out and looked at every detail, you'd really understand it. Even the sociopath, you'd have empathy for it because you'd realize that they cannot be any other way and that this equals this and that equals that. There's nothing that isn't out of line and there's nobody there that's really guilty. That's not saying that we don't take responsibility in the moment for our actions. That's a positive thing for us to do as humans. But it's nobody's responsibility. So we take responsibility. Okay, I crashed into someone's car. I pay for it. I was the one that created the crash. The rules are I pay for it. That is my responsibility. I have a dog called Palisi who's just let off an enormous fart, and it is my responsibility to look after her body. Isn't it easy? To give you your dinner? Yes, yes. When I took on the dog, even though I always say that I didn't take her on, she took me on. She's a street dog from Thailand. When I took her on, it's now my responsibility to look after her. In Thailand, that's not the case. You can take on a dog and it's not necessarily your responsibility to look after them. But my responsibility to feed her, to make sure she doesn't do poo-poo on anybody's lawn, to make sure she doesn't bite anybody or anybody's dog, to exercise her, to give her freedom, to give her good food. That is a responsibility, but it's nobody's responsibility. And I can only do that responsibility dependent on how I've been conditioned in the past. So how my parents were with dogs, how my parents were with me, the way I see the world, where I see boundaries or not boundaries, fair or not fair. And so then from my particular conditioning, that might be that I'm a bad dog owner. And then somebody would come up and then teach me, say, you're a bad dog owner. You need to learn how to be a better dog owner. And if you're open, then you'll take on that advice, or you'll look at that advice and you'll see how that fits with you. And then maybe you improve being a dog owner or a child owner. Maybe you can't call it a child owner, a parent. And that's how we are, and it's nobody's fault. So if you've like realized that you've not brought your children up very well, like there were things that you did that damaged them, it's not your fault. You couldn't have been any other way. But one thing that you could do, which would be so incredibly beautiful, is take responsibility for it now and look at ways in which you can change that now. But it's not your fault. It doesn't mean you don't say sorry to your children, because that would be incredibly healing for them to hear, you take responsibility. Like, I'm sorry. That's such a healing word to say that. So many people are so shy to say I'm sorry. Some people say it too much. But it's so beautiful to say, I am sorry. Yes, 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 yes. I'm going quite quick, aren't I? Speaking quite quickly. So we believe that this person is who we are, but it's not who you are. It's a formation playing. It's like those fractals, you know. Have you ever seen the fractals on YouTube where you just go in and in and in, like our personality structure? You can go such depth of the unconscious. Like, I thought that, you know, after my awakening, I was pretty conscious of the Lisa character. And then 10 years later, I have learned so much about Lisa's unconscious patterning. Like, it goes on infinitely. Like, it really is. When teachers say that if you believe enlightenment is becoming unconditioned or having perfect habits, you will go on infinitely, like fractals, infinitely. Like, it's the way we're set up is infinitely complex. It's never ending. Like, what we are now is a product of everything that's ever been. So it's so complex, our conditioning, and that can get deeper and deeper. I think it's constantly getting deeper and deeper in me. Maybe it's getting shallower and shallower. You can't really tell, but maybe I'm becoming less conscious. I hope not. But that never ends. It's so humbling that you don't ever become enlightened. It's so humbling for me that I don't, on the human level, become enlightened. Like, I've been so humbled over the last 10 years of any area in which there was some slight tendency to feeling like I had it more sorted than others around me, or that I knew what I was talking about. You know, life took that away because it's untrue. We don't know where we are or what we are. We just are. And then there's stuff appearing, and we deal with that in every moment, dependent on our current conditioning. And genetics. Oh, no. Wrong thing. Wrong thing. Male, quit. I hope I didn't quit there. No, we're still going. We can go endlessly into ourselves. Like, I know nothing. Like, for an example, today, my poor partner's getting talked about a lot. We went somewhere with Khaleesi, and on the way there, a while back, while my partner was driving, we had a car accident. It wrote one car off, so it wasn't like minor, but it wasn't also bad. Like, it wasn't really bad, but it was just unfortunate the way it hit. But it wasn't like minor, but it wasn't like really bad. So we had this car accident, and then the last like 4 or 5 times, I can't remember how many times it is, that we've been in the car together when I've been driving, the accident was because my partner didn't stop at the junction. So like something was happening where I was looking down, or I didn't quite see it when I wasn't like really stopping at the junction, and so I had to put the brakes on a bit hard. And each time he was like, no, 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 stop, stop. Not so much like that. Today it happened again, and when I'm by myself, I never realize myself doing that, like not stopping at a junction or having to put my brakes on. Or if I do, I'm wiping it from my brain as some sort of safety and protection. And this time it was quite close, apparently. I was looking down at the... Oh, maybe I shouldn't say what I was doing. I wasn't going fast, and I don't think it would have created an accident, but it was quite close, and I had to put the brakes on. You had to say, no, stop! And my response instantly was I would have stopped. I would have seen it and I would have stopped. I always do. There's not a problem. And then I went into, we had to pull over because Khaleesi got agitated. And my response was, you know, this never happens when you're not in the car. You know, is it something that you're thinking? Is it I'm picking up on something in you? Is it that you're saying no, stop too dramatically when it shouldn't be? I can't remember all the things I did. And then as we were driving along, I realized that he began to believe in some way it was his thought. And then I kind of found it funny, and I just thought how ridiculous. And I just realized that like I was like there was some defense in me that was protecting myself, because I do so much driving around Europe, that I was protecting myself from accepting that I'd made a mistake. Like, so then I just laughed and I said, oh, don't worry, it's me. And we laughed. I'm also open to the fact that there could be some other magical release happening between us. Like, it's bizarre that it keeps happening when he's in the car. But like, just like I could see that defense, it didn't even feel uncomfortable. It's just something that appears in us as humans, and it passes. And this will, to me, go on endlessly. We're always going to find these things in ourselves, because we can't ever find the truth in time. We can't ever find the truth in what we say as stories. All we can do is we can feel when there's a defense there. We can feel when there's agitation in what we say, but we don't know what the truth is. And like, I don't want him thinking it's his fault, because it's not his fault, or that he'd done something wrong, because he hadn't done something wrong. But it updated both of our machines, like for me realizing that there was some sort of defense going on, because I do so much driving, it wasn't like I was angry, like, no, I never make a mistake. It's more like, no, I would have stopped. I trust myself as a driver. Like, I would have stopped. I would have. And for him, like, his feeling that he'd done something wrong. I forgot where I was going there. But it's all stories, and it's all something that we can go ever deeper in. We'll endlessly have dynamics. And I can see it from some spiritual teacher. They can easily, like, always say, oh, I'm feeling your energy, or I'm picking up on your energy. Even people, not spiritual teachers, but people that are into spirituality. And in the end, we don't know. That could be, but we don't know. We don't know what we are or how it's happening. Like, it's so humbling, this subject. Nobody becomes enlightened. So even if somebody says they are enlightened and they said, yes, no, it's definitely the other person's energies that's doing all of this, that doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean you have to believe them. That's just a perspective that's coming out of this moment. We sometimes get into this mentality, oh, you've got to listen to everything the teacher says. But it's really like a dynamic from childhood. Like, you've got to listen to what the mother says. The mother is right, or the father is right, or the fear of having your own opinion, the fear of being wrong. All of us are wrong and right. We don't know truth. We just know this moment and what's appearing in this moment and the feelings. And I could feel there was part of me that didn't want to acknowledge that I make a mistake when driving, not out of arrogance, but because I do so much driving. I just didn't want to think that that could be a possibility, that I'd make so many mistakes. More out of fear of driving. Because when I drive, I totally let the unconscious drive, like I'm not in control, like the unconscious is doing it. Like I'm not consciously thinking about what I'm doing, and I just go into this way of totally trusting my unconscious driving skills. It's constantly humbling, this path, when you really see it for what it is, that you are no thing, and we're never going to know who's right or wrong, or what's dangerous or what's not dangerous. We just know what's happening and our feelings in this moment. And it's all speculation putting it into stories. I can also see how somebody who has like weak boundaries and has really dominant parents could use that teaching and could use what I'm saying now to never assert themselves, or never stand up for themselves, or always be the guilty or bad one. Like I can see how it goes infinitely, like in all directions of possibilities and conditions. Like there's never an enlightened person. And some people like to say, you're speaking without an ego. I am not speaking without an ego. How could you do that? Depends how you say an ego is. Like for me, the ego, I'm talking about the personality structure. Everybody is talking through a personality structure. There might not be the claiming that that personality structure is you. And some people might call that mechanism the ego, but like Ramesh Balsekar and Roger, they don't. The ego is a positive thing. It's like the character. So everything is coming out of the character. It is coming from nothingness. It is coming from consciousness, but it goes through the filter of the character. And that character is always going to have bias dependent on the way it's set up. So the answer to is non-duality dangerous? It's dependent on where you look from, dependent where you see that from. Mm-hmm. So who are you now? What is free? The character is algorithms. It will have biases, it will have ways of being, it will have traumas, it will have schemas, it will have expanded ideas, beautiful ideas, but it's an algorithm that's playing. You could call that the ego. That's what Roger and Ramesh call it, playing. But that's not the freedom. Yes, the personality structure and the ego will change, and when you're open to this subject, you're more than likely open to expanding that algorithm and growing that algorithm, because it's such a beautiful thing to do, and it's very respectful to your neighbors to do that and to your family. But that endlessly expands. And then what is it that's looking at that? Who's experiencing now? Who hears my voice? Who looks out of the eyes? Who's experiencing? The character, the ego, the personality structure is not experiencing. It is a filter which is filtering life. It's like the senses, it's the thoughts, it's the way in which our eyes see. the way in which our ears hear. This filters it, and then who experiences? And then there's a little voice inside that's like, I'm good, I'm bad, I'm right, I'm wrong. And who experiences that? It's being seen, so it's not the seer. Something is seeing that, so that the fact that it appears means there's something beyond that. Who is it that's experiencing now? Who? And that which is experiencing isn't behind or in front, it isn't located anywhere. You say behind because it's just like a way of using language, but it's everywhere. It's not separate from the sounds of my voice. It's not separate from the sight of me. It's not separate from the room. And it's here, it's ever present. It's this moment. It's not moving in time. Who you are doesn't move. What you're not moves. What you're not comes and goes. But what you truly are doesn't move. It's here, watching, always. And then the room changes, the people change, the sounds change, experiences change, your personality changes, your dynamics change, your character change, the voice in your head changes. But looking and the sense of being do not change. That mystery, that no thing, which is everything, does not change. It is no place and every place, no thing and all things. It is here. And this is your freedom. You can't find freedom in something that's always moving. You can become more free on the human level, that you can improve your dynamics and become more free. You can become more free in relationships, but you can't ever become something because everything is always changing and you're evolving. You're never standing still. Everything is moving like a kaleidoscope, like fractals, ever deeper into the same, ever deeper into same. But who you are is right here, watching, unmoved, unfazed, love, total love, unconditioned love. It doesn't move. Everything that happens, it loves, good or bad. The fizzy drinks popping and going all over the roof, or the dropping of the dog food. It's absolutely embraced. The human might not like it. The human might find that painful. But on the ultimate level, it is free. The ultimate doesn't reject that. All of that is the divine. So what's looking now is totally empty. What's experiencing now is empty. The body has reactions. So there's emptiness. I go into the kitchen and the dog food is dropped everywhere, and then there's pain in the body, but the looking is empty. The experiencing is empty. And maybe I get grumpy about it, or maybe I tell my boyfriend off or my partner off because he's done it wrong or something, which is unlikely because just cleaned it up, but just says, for example, I'm trying to describe something painful. The emptiness is still free. The emptiness is still there looking, but the body is having its grumpy reaction. Me. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. I saw you, Lisa. Drop it. No, I didn't. I would be a good driver. I don't make mistakes. I know I make mistakes as driving, but I can feel that there's like a layer that's like, I didn't make a mistake. And it's some sort of protection around my fear around driving. I drive so much, and sometimes it can be a little scary, like doing these epic journeys all by myself. In countries where you don't speak the language or where the roads are slightly different. And the fact that I grew up and learned on the other side of the road. And every country in Europe is different, the driving. Different rules.